Massive wildfires are burning across Northern California.
Tonight in Oregon, devastation and desperation.
Wildfires continue to wreak havoc on the West Coast.
This is America Fast Forward.
Since August, over 4.5 million acres have burned across California, Oregon, and Washington combined, with thousands of people displaced and dozens reported dead or missing.
We've passed a tipping point. What's happening right now is complete triage where we're just putting resources where the highest priorities are and really can't keep up with the scale of fire that's happening.
Human-caused global warming has and will continue to change climate, resulting in longer, hotter, drier fire seasons. These megafires, this is the future. It's now.
The West has long been shaped by fire. But global warming, decades of fire suppression, and poor fuels management has resulted in increasingly more destructive fire seasons.
When we say megafires are because of climate change, we aren't talking about the ignition source. And we also aren't talking about the availability of fuels. What we are talking about is the condition of those fuels.
Since 2013, Stavros has been studying fire behavior and how climate change will impact the likelihood of megafires out west.
We basically predicted that across the entire western United States, the likelihood of megafires is going to increase by 2 to 3 times, or 3 to 400%. And we expected that to happen under the worst case climate scenario. And we expected that by 2030. And it's 2020. And it's already happening.
States like California have a complicated history with fire.
There used to be very frequent wildfires in California, but they would be ground fires. So non-destructive fires, fires that burn the underbrush, the understory of the forests, but that would rarely reach the crowns of the mature trees, and so would rarely have the destructive effects that we see here, or rarely grow really big in size as well.
Climate scientist and tree expert Valerie Trouet studies tree rings in order to understand our climate history. From those rings, she can see scars left behind from fires, an indelible mark from the past.
What's interesting is that we see these very frequent fire scars in the past, but we barely see any scars at all in the 20th century. So that fire regime of frequent ground fires disappears with the establishment of the Forest Service in the early 20th century. So when the Forest Service was established, its mandate was to protect forests, including western forests, and part of that protection was protection against wildfires. And so we started systematically putting out those naturally occurring ground fires. And we were very good at it, very, very efficient, very effective.
This led to an explosion of growth, a dangerous fuel imbalance that is being exacerbated by a hotter and drier climate.
Instead of 10 years worth of flammable material, we now have 100 years worth of flammable material. And now when a fire happens, it immediately reaches its crowns and it becomes the kind of destructive wildfires that we see throughout the American West.
Fire used to be a tool and a process that was very beneficial to human communities, whether it was Native Americans or ranchers, other groups. And when we broke that relationship and took fire away from people, there were huge implications for the landscape.
For Quinn Davidson, one of the solutions is to give communities the tools to prescribe their own fire burns, to embrace fire, not suppress it.
When we think about that fire-adapted future in California, wildfire is going to be a big part of it. We want it to be a big part of it. Wildfire has so much potential to do good work, and we need to be thinking about what we can do, as community members, as residents, to increase our own resiliency. And we should really be focused on landscape resiliency, on community resiliency, and on bringing fire back in a way that makes sense for all of us who live here.
Fire doesn't just heat your food. It doesn't just keep you warm. It also manages and maintains our environment and helps everything rebalance itself so the ecosystem stays healthy. We take that very seriously. It's something that we teach our children because we have an oral history and not a written history.
For millennia, indigenous tribes in this region have practiced traditional controlled forest burning techniques as a way to tend to the land.
For the natives, we know what we need to do. We know that we need to work together to make this better. We do training exchanges, which basically teaches the community, and we have people coming from all over the world. It's not just our community. So they're taking our stories, our lessons back to their countries, back to their people, and telling them that, you know, there's a way to do this. There's a way to restore the land and a way to care for yourself that's not detrimental to the world.
Apocalypse comes from the Greek apo, which means and kalapatin, which means cover. So when you put it together, it means uncover. And apocalypse is an uncovering of faulty assumptions that you've made about the system that you had before. Between COVID, social justice being reignited, and with these massive fire seasons, it's quite literally an apocalyptic year. It is a time for us to uncover what wasn't working and reveal what we want the system to be. And it's a chance to rebuild that system.